All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Every Damn Friday. It's cold out here in the shop. I can see my breath a little bit this morning. Uh, very happy to have a guest on here, somebody that I haven't really had a chance to talk to a whole lot over the course of our music careers. He's Mr. Moonlight Mile himself from Sandy Hook, Kentucky. Mr. Jonathan Pennington, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Josh. Thanks for having me out, man. I really appreciate it, or having me on, I guess I should say.
Well,
Thank you
I
so
got you
much.
out of bed.
That's true. You did. You literally did. But my mom has a little quieter house because
There,
we got five kids. So I tried. I had to get out of bed and then crawl through all the ice to get down here. So it was. Kentucky is filled with ice for all those
Listen,
that.
we're supposed to get a big meltdown today. We're supposed to be like 40, so
Lord, I hope so.
I may put some shorts on. It.
Right?
Hey
I
man,
felt
so you fresh off a New Faces night in Nashville at the OG Basement. I see you got some Southgate House. You got a show coming up there. Uh, you know, it seems like y'all got a lot going on, but I need to know the whole story. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your history and kind of how all this got started for you.
absolutely, man. I've been playing guitar since I was like 14. Like guitar was like my thing to deal with life. I had a mental health. We had a lot of mental health issues in my family. It's a long story. We have time. We'll get into it later. But uh, there's a lot of the songs I write about are a lot about growing up with uh, around addiction and with addiction and with mental health issues and all those things. And so the guitar and music was kind of my solace, my place to get away. And so I've been music has been like my thing since I was like 14. And grew up in a little church. My mom was a Baptist, into Baptist church. Her and my dad, and we played music there, and they'd have revivals that would go on for weeks and weeks on end, and I would sing those old gospel songs and little old church houses. A lot of Ralph Stanley, and my uncle, my great uncle, had played with Ralph a little bit, and then growing up also in Sandy Hook, hometown of Keith Whitley. It kind of
I was
all.
going to say that there had to be an influence there, I'm sure.
My first concert was me walking out on my front porch in Sandy Hook. We lived right in town, and Keith. I remember hearing Keith. From what I probably about 2 or 3 miles away, but it was loud enough to where I could hear it bouncing all over the hills, and he heard Keith singing uptown at the Tobacco Festival that year, and that was like one of my first memories of music and of a concert. And mom and dad never would go up to the Tobacco Festival. It was a little wild, so I never got to go there at night anyway. They had a parade during the day that would come right down to our house. We were real close to it, so it would actually we could sit in our front porch. Our front yard was like a nice attraction in town because people didn't have to go up to the parade. They could just sit in our yard and the parade would come through.
There you go.
And so anyway, so music was just kind of it was always around me, and it took me my teenagers to really get into it, but um, ended up moving away from home. Met my wife. She's from near the Twin Cities.
Okay.
We lived in Minnesota for a long time. This weather we're having is a lot like
I was going to
it's
say
more it's more like up there.
little PTSD.
It is for real. And we're not as good on the road as they are. They're a lot better with being used to this sort of stuff. But anyway, so I was involved. Got my associate degree in music up there, and also worked in like mental health stuff. And long story short, we had five kids. I got a master's degree in human services and a bachelor's degree in um, some human relations actually, and just couldn't really figure out what I need to do. Really, basically having kids, having a family, need to figure out how I was going to pay the bills. I played in some bands up north, but after that, it kind of became more back into the church music for a long period of time. And
Because you needed the Lord because you had so many damn kids.
Lord, that's it. That's exactly it. I'm like, Lord, help me. I need some money. I got mouths to feed. And
Pass the plate for
yeah,
Jonathan.
exactly. I'm a musician and I work in human services, which means I'm poor. Uh, those two things together, they don't pay a lot, but they're as far as like it doesn't pay great, but it's one of the best things I've ever did, being able to help people. I help a lot of people that are coming off the street that are struggling with addiction or severe mental health illnesses, and I'm helping them get connected to services. And I did that all throughout. We went from Minnesota, and then we lived in Lincoln, Nebraska for a while, and we were in Kansas City for a little bit. And I did mental health stuff along with church stuff, and then raising the kids. And long story short, the church was getting pretty messy. I had got involved in a church that I'll just say it was not a good place to be. The kids got hurt, I got hurt, my wife got hurt. It was just a lot of controlling things. And my dad passed away in 2018, right around the same time. So my mom was going to need some help, so we moved back home. And from the ending of kind of my church world and then coming back home, and those worlds collide. And I'd got involved in a new job, and this job wasn't going to take as much of my time as a lot of the other ones were, and it was either go back and finish up another master's degree in therapy, or go back and finally do music. And I kind of felt like at that time in my life, I was music was the thing that I wanted to do the most. And
How old are you?
42.
All right, so we're about
Yeah.
the same age. I'm 45, so
Okay. Yeah.
I
So
kind
I
of
mean,
I kind of
go
did
ahead.
that same thing. I was 35, I guess, and I was in the people business too. I was teaching high school,
Okay.
and it was kind of like those two worlds were. I was running parallel lives, and they were starting to intersect more than normal, and I had to make a choice, uh, and it was the best thing I ever did. I mean, I can sit here in the middle of nowhere now because I did it, and
That's
it was
it.
great, and I loved it, and I met so many people. But yeah, it takes kind of one of those things like you're talking about where you have to kind of sit back and go, all right, what what do I really want to do with my life, and uh,
Right.
and as long as you got the support around that, the the happy wife, happy life, that's a big
That
part of
that that
making this
that's
thing
it.
work.
Well, my wife, when she met me, hold on just a sec. Mom, the dogs are going crazy. I don't have kids down here, but I got a dog. My mom's got a dog, and I swear the thing's scared of everything. Uh, he probably hears me here talking, so he thinks there's somebody breaking in. Uh, where was I at?
We were
Sorry
talking
about
about
that.
your wife supporting you.
Yeah, my wife has been from the beginning. I mean, I think when we first started talking, I met her on a Christian chat room of all things in the world, back when those were a thing. And I wasn't expecting to move away, but we got talking, fell in love, and I wrote her songs and sent them to her, and on in old school way, and those the recording software from back in the day. and
Oh yeah.
and so she knew I was a musician from the beginning, and that was kind of part of what she loved about me. So um, it's meant that I bring guitars home out of nowhere sometimes, and she's still stuck with me even when I
Just
do
don't,
that. So
just don't tell her how many.
that's right. That's
You just no. I've had this one for a long time, honey.
right. I'm too,
Look,
yeah.
hey, look. I'm gonna move my
Oh
camera.
Lord,
Yeah. So it's
you understand?
I have that issue as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's very understanding, because she's I think you have to find one that understands it.
I
Musicians
don't
are
know if my wife understands it, but she tolerates it, and that's
that's
good enough.
that's more like it. You're exactly right. That would be my wife's answer too. She's like, she'll talk. She tolerates it well. And so anyway, all that came together, and wife, my wife behind me, and so we started Moonlight Mile in 2021. I basically was looking at. I didn't mention this, but when I lived in Minnesota, I was in a band called the Dead Flowers, and we were kind of doing before the big Tyler Childers explosion. We were doing that sort of thing up north. I'd finally realized that I can take rock music and put it with because I'm also a big grunge fan from the
Well,
'90s,
look, I
Nirvana.
have it written down. Like
Yeah.
you are a certified squaller.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
it like some like heroin, like some of those songs, like
mhm,
I'm hearing like Days of the New, like it's like
that's it.
like very it is a very neat way to present Appalachian music, you know.
That was it. I grew up, to be honest, at one point when I was involved in, I've kind of been involved in and out of church my entire life, but there'd be times I'd get disillusioned with church, and the '90s was a big part of big, when Nirvana Nevermind came out, it was like, you know, even though now I go back and listen to that album and it's like, it doesn't hit me like it did then, but when I was a 14-year-old kid, it was like, this is everything that I feel in an album, and
Yeah.
and and how it touched some little kid in Appalachia. I don't, it was that kind of thing. It touched everybody. Every suburban kid
Yeah,
was.
I mean, I wasn't even like looking to rebel against anything. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah, now, right.
But
Not
it
even knowing I needed to. Not even
but
knowing I needed to.
it was visceral and I never. I mean, I was listening to Boyz II Men and Alan Jackson
Right.
and and all of a sudden it like hit me like a hammer
I had
and
MTV. I had the MTV Party to Go mix was the album I had before Nevermind. And
yeah.
boom, whoop, there it is and stuff.
Look, kids these days don't understand what it was like to live in the 1900s.
That's it. It's a different world all the way around.
Well, people talk about it all the time, and we're both Xers, so uh, did I lose you? All right, so we're both Xers, so we grew up in that unique situation where you were still putting baseball cards on your bike spokes in the '80s, and your parents still listened to records, like even when it wasn't cool, it was because it's what we had.
Right.
And then so we had that whole half of our life was analog, and
You
then we got to see the digital age happen.
you had to. I mean, I think the difference too is when you had to invest in a band, like you had to
Oh yeah.
invest your own hard-earned,
Well,
bonus jobs.
it was a gamble because you
That's
go to
it.
this jockey or whatever, and you'd like the way the cover looked, and
Right.
go, do I really want to spend $15 on this? I only know one song.
That's
Like,
it.
is this gonna be worth the investment? And then once you bought it, like I remember, I bought Vitalogy Pearl Jam,
Yeah.
and it was a little different than TM,
Right. I know
and
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
so I made myself love it because I
Yeah.
spent $15 to buy the CD. Now, of course, it's one of my favorites now, but
Right.
you had to really you had to do your homework and 96 STO or 99.7 or whatever hit radio
Yeah.
station you listen to that you had the Hot 9 at 9 and that was all you knew, right?
That's it. I mean, I remember even in that time, I didn't even have MTV. I couldn't get MTV at my house. Our cable company didn't have MTV. I live in town, and so my cousin had MTV on his satellite dish, so I could go over to my cousin's house, and I mean, it was just so awesome because I just spend the night when we just have like MTV on all the time just to be able
Yeah.
to see those videos.
Well, and I remember I had a cousin who's an only child and he kind of got everything he wanted.
Yeah.
And I would always like the allure of the parental advisory albums.
Right.
Like he had like Dr. Dre and Snoop,
Oh, sure.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, can I borrow that CD?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just for a week. I'll give it to you at Mama's next weekend.
That's exactly it, man. It was. I think in a lot of ways it kind of has hurt music to not have that investment. I think that investment links you to music a lot, or it did me. Maybe I don't. I
No,
think.
I think we take it we don't we take for granted the discovery piece of it.
Yeah.
It's like Spotify just throws like if you like something, it throws it in the algorithm, and it's going to give
Yeah.
you all sorts of stuff that sound like that.
That's
And
exactly it.
and you can find a lot of great people that way, but I don't know. Like I'll be honest with you. My wife loved TikTok, and
Right.
when it was going to go away for a minute, I thought, you know what? I hate it for all the people who have made a living doing
Sure.
TikTok,
Right.
but at the same time, it's like you're gonna have to if you want to watch something or see something live or discover something, you're
Yeah.
gonna have to go to the show. like you're going to have to go to the borough, or you're going to have to go to,
Yeah.
you know, Zanzibar or wherever it is, wherever town you're in, and you're going to have to go find this music and listen to it in person. Of course, it's back now, so that was short lived. But for a minute, I thought, you know, that's gonna maybe the music industry will stop looking to the algorithm so much
Oh God, yeah.
and
Because
go back out and find something.
the algorithm is flawed in its own self too. Because the TikTok one was extreme, so it would like you didn't have to find anything. It was throwing stuff at you, pushing you to lie, and even to the point of kind of pushing you into whatever direction it wanted you to go. And I think even that's dangerous too, because if the music that TikTok is pushing is, you know, whatever, that's the ones that you're going to be hearing. That's the songs. You know, my kids were singing TikTok songs. That's where whatever new
I
song
mean,
came out.
my daughter knew, you know, whatever uh, the hit song or the hot song at the time to attach to your video. Like she was singing "Dinosaur" by Hank Jr. and I thought that was pretty rad. But I was like,
Yeah.
when'd you start listening to Bocephus? She's like, oh, it was on TikTok.
Right. Exactly. I remember when Keith came through TikTok for a little bit, and I was like, "This is awesome!" Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some of it that's cool because it's like your kids are getting influenced by these things that are like, you know, I mean, I remember when I lived up north and first moved away, and I talk about Keith Whitley, and up there, people didn't even hardly know who he was because he hadn't got.
Bless
But
their hearts.
yeah, I know it. And then with this whole with TikTok and those things, like now it's like you hear about Keith. They mention Keith. They drop Keith Whitley's name pretty regularly. But I remember when they didn't do that.
I remember being on the school bus. I sat in the front seat with my friend Aaron, and I remember the morning that they made the announcement that Keith Whitley had died. Because
Oh yeah.
we would sit in that seat and sing songs together all the time, like
Oh
Randy Travis and you know
yeah.
just whatever the hit songs were. We
Sure.
were just, I mean, we were like, I don't know,
Right.
fourth grade or
Right.
whatever, and but I remember that day, and it's not like I was like this huge Keith Whitley fan, but he was a big star, you know. So I don't know. I think we grew up in a really neat time, and it
We did.
and then maybe everybody will say that, like, you know, my kids will probably go, man, the Minecraft age was the best age to exist. But
You will. I mean, they will. There's going to be nostalgia to every generation in some way, shape, or form. But um, it would be cool if something came about in this new wave of the technology that instead of giving us what they want us to listen to, we had to dig for it a little bit. Because I think when you invest in it, it means a little bit more. I know.
I saw an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was talking about that too. He's like, it's great. He said, you know, Facebook and these things are just giving you what you want.
Right.
You know, you've shown them what you like, so like you said, they're feeding it to you.
Yeah.
But there's something about just walking down the aisle of a store
Yeah.
and picking up something random. He said, and the algorithm will never do that for you.
No. No, that's it. I mean, think about how many things you purchase. I'm in the grocery store and now I see this, so I'm gonna grab it, you know, or
Yeah.
wherever. I mean,
And I don't need, listen, we don't even go in the grocery store. We click list it, you
You're
know,
right.
Amazon and UPS stop
And
at
you
my
pick it
house. I
up.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm an hour from any larger city, and
Same.
so everything, it comes here, you know, and it's a
It, it's a
it's a
45-minute drive for us to go to Walmart. I mean, that's
yeah.
where we are, you know, in Sandy Hook. So I totally get that too.
Well,
But
we digress. Like I
yeah.
didn't want to get into
No, that's cool. I like it.
soapboxing on growing up in the 80s and 90s, but I do. But it has shaped you.
Yeah,
And
100%.
like I said, like I immediately, you know, in your voice, like it, like I like to think I squall a little bit too, but like you've got a you know, a Lane Staley drawl. So
It is a squall. Yeah, it is, and it comes from the '90s. Like that was what I was trying. What I meant was mentioned earlier was like, you know, before Tyler like blew up, like I was starting to see patches of this Appalachian thing melt, you know, meshing into these different bands, and I remember the first time I heard Ryan Adams or Wilco or bands like that, where it's like, you know, here's this country thing that they're adding into
Uncle
this.
Tupelo and
Yeah, well, right. Like No Depression, like come on, like that. All those sounds and I'd never heard that, and so I was like, this is awesome. I can actually do that. So we were doing that in Minnesota for a little while before the band fell apart, and then when it was time for me to come back home, that Tyler Our Vinyl release came out, and I remember I was flying. They made me. I was working I was getting ready to get a job working for the DOC. I was going to run a SAT program for the DOC, and they made me fly in to take a drug test. They wouldn't let me take a drug test in Nebraska where we were living and send it. They were like, no, you're coming in.
You're not belling that piss.
That's it. You're coming in pissing our own cups. You know, I had to fly in just to take this P test. Didn't even know if I was going to get a job or not. But that was the soundtrack of my flight, was that Aravine. And I was like, oh my God, this is next level. This is something different. And
I remember when we were playing at Willie's Locally Known and Jericho Woods when we were still playing. This was early on, and Paul, our bass player, is friends with CJ Kane, and CJ's after the show. He came up, talked to us, and he was just starting to play with the Wooks, I think, then, and playing with Newtown and some different stuff. And he goes, "Hey, this is my friend Tyler. We write songs together." And he was just a scraggly redheaded kid. And I was like, yeah, nice to meet you, buddy.
Right?
Did you see my set? Like we crushed it.
You should hang out with me, man. Sometimes.
Yeah, he did okay.
Right.
But but it did it like that.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It's not that the credibility and the talent and all the stuff wasn't already there, but just he brought the correct light to Kentucky music.
He did.
It wasn't a pop. It's like Chris Stapleton is the best singer of all time.
Right.
But he was enough in the Nashville thing that people weren't just automatically associating, Kentucky to
Kentucky
him.
with it. It still felt in a way. It was less pop. I loved it. But which was saying a lot, because a lot of the stuff down at Nashville at that time, it was not great. But that was like, oh, this is good. But it still didn't have that Appalachian full on thing connected to it.
And Tyler, just like the light was really focused on that, and I think it has, that train is still rolling.
It is, and I see it every week. I mean, in all the bands that are, there's still a sound. We went just mentioning that. You mentioned earlier about us going down to Nashville. We went down to Nashville and we played with Jordan and Alan the Bellwethers, and we both played together. And they were like, "There's a Kentucky thing going on. There's something that it's like, there's something here. Like Nashville needs to bottle this if they want to have real magic."
I hope they never touch it.
I know you're right.
I hope they leave us alone.
You're right.
There's enough. Zach Bryan was the perfect Tyler copycat, I guess.
He was, yeah.
It may, I don't know. I just kind of, I like what we got.
Yeah.
And I wanted to always. I'm selfish in that.
You're right.
I want it to be our thing, but it is a flattering, not to me, but as a Kentuckian, it's flattering that people have loved it so much.
Yeah.
I'm going over to the UK here in April, and it's just because I'm from Kentucky, like.
Right.
Because they're like, we
love it over there. Yeah, they absolutely love this.
Again, I don't want to stick to the script, but I do want to make sure that I get lots of stuff in about you all. Listen, my favorite song is Kessler.
Oh.
So my dad, he has this awesome bourbon collection, but he still buys Kessler plastic liter bottles.
Oh, I love it.
And drinks it with Diet Coke.
Listen, I'll tell you Kessler story. So that I always say when I tell the story before I sing that song, I always say, "Has anybody ever had a drink of Julius Kessler?" And there's always there's always somebody in the back, and they're like. And it's literally like always in the corner somewhere. I'm like, that's my family, that's my people right there. Yeah, and because we called it gut rot was our nickname.
Oh
yeah, but it would do the trick. But that was, we go to. I lived in a dry county. I don't know if you grew up in a dry county.
I did.
Okay, so
it's wet now, but it was dry then.
Oh, it's still dry here, and I guess we like to give our tax dollars to over to Round County and Carter County, but you still have to go out of county to buy alcohol, and and so we'd go to this little lady's house. Her name, and I've talked to the family. They said it's fine. You can say her name. Our granny was proud of her business, and her name was Corey Gibson. She was actually by my granny's uh, first cousin, I believe, and so she actually wouldn't sell to me because she said if I sell to you, all of May will find out and she'll get me. So she never would. So I have to send my buddy back there, and he'd be like half 3 sheets to the wind, and he'd go back there staggered, and you'd go up to her little window. She'd raise it up. And she'd say, "What do you want?" She'd have curlers in her hair, and I mean, whole deal. And it
The
was always
bedroom full of boxes.
it was just cheap beer, Tavarsky and Kessler were your options, and those old plastic Kessler little half pint bottles is what
Hey
we
man,
would
you
get.
have to worry about breaking them. You can just throw them in the back of the truck.
You know how many of those you just see laying around, Sandy, that just smashed. That was nobody. That was. I'm glad people throw away their trash better today.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, but yeah, that song was written about that because it was a whole experience that, again, talking about the '90s and talking about that, it's like it was a different world.
Well, it just being Bible Belt,
Yeah.
we like I said, we were Dry County, and we called it going up the road. Like you'd have to, there was a couple guys in town.
Yeah.
You could pull in, and if you gave them $20 and bought them a 6-pack, they would ride with you across the county line to.
Right.
For us, it was Meade County, and we'd go to B&H, and you get what you wanted, and he'd throw it in the trunk.
Oh, that's great.
But it was like it was like an hour trip, all told, and yeah, it was a. But
so their bootlegging business was mobile then. They'd actually would go with you then, and
they weren't even bootlegging. They were just like, it was like sending somebody in to buy you cigarettes, right?
Right, exactly. Okay.
Except you had to take them to the next town,
next county to do it. Yeah, there was 2 or 3 bootleggers, but Corinne's was the main one. She was the endearing little granny that we all loved so well.
That nobody was going to mess with.
That's right. No.
Like the cops are going to leave her alone.
Well, there was one time they busted Corinne's, and it was a very short little window time, and she was back up and running. It wasn't no time, but she's right back up.
Listen, how many times have you come here on Sunday afternoon?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Don't you tell me that I can't do this when I know you buying from me.
Lord, my dad, this was before Dad got religion. And I remember riding Dad's old truck, and he'd drive up to that old trailer house and go around the back, come back.
Hey, go back. Turn that water into whiskey.
That's exactly it. That's right.
I'm Catholic, so it's fine.
Hey, I'm spiritual now. I still believe, but I have faith, but I got my own thing now. So
listen. Hey, I'm team Jesus. I'm team Jesus, right?
100% still.
I grew up going to my grandparents' church. They were Methodists, and I went to friends' churches. I can always find. I can kind of hone in on the message, and it doesn't. I don't get too caught up in the dogma.
Yeah, you have to, and I mean, even when I mentioned playing in churches, I mean, I played in for Catholic church bands and the Lutheran church bands, and I mean, all across the board, I played guitar in one thing or the other, and so it was they're all pointing the same thing, pointing the same way,
When it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, you got to go, right?
There's rough and ugly all mixed on in the middle of it, but that's all. I think that's all part of just being human. And after coming out and getting hurt and everything, now I'm looking back, I'm like, it's just because people get in there and try to put their own spin on it, their own personal spin on it, and it's your own personal spin is going to be different for everybody. Like because we all have our different.
Well, and I think that is we're looking for safety in that we think we know what we're supposed to be doing and how it's supposed to work, and that's when we get in trouble.
That's it.
And as an artist, you're really just the best stuff comes when you just kind of hand it over and go, hey, look, I'm just gonna try to use this gift, work through me, do what you got to do, conduit.
I mean, I can still go. I mean, I'll go play a set at wherever the Burrow or wherever, and to me, it's like church. To me, it's, I mean, I may not be saying everything, every song about Jesus is love, but at the same time, it's all wrapped up in there too,
Well, and I think with your experience, working with people and dealing with heart, man, it's like I don't know what kind of confidentiality, like how close your songs can mirror the things that you're dealing with, but you definitely have. It seems your cup probably runneth over with things that you could write sad,
oh,
hard time
dude.
songs about.
Yep. And but the thing about it is too, is like I was raised like, okay, so just to touch on it a little bit, my dad has schizoaffective disorder. So my dad was always very sick. And like there were times as a child, I'm going to visit my dad. We called it the sixth floor in Moorhead. It was the sixth floor of the hospital. Like,
Yeah, that's where they always are.
if you don't straighten up, you're going to the sixth floor, and
Yeah.
dad would go to the sixth floor. We go visit dad, and at that time, everybody smoked cigarettes. Everybody in the hospital at that entire like level was just a big cloud of
But
cigarette smoke.
again, an '80s thing that doesn't make any sense now looking
No,
back.
not at all. It looks like, I mean, it's almost like it's a different reality, but it was. Every one of them had a cigarette in their hand and they were shaking and they were just, I mean, I seen that as a little kid and having talks with my dad about, asking me, son, I can trust you. Is it real? People can hear inside my head, like, no, no, dad, that's not, and
Yeah.
so I grew up with that, and that it molded me in the so there's a song that's coming out on the second album. So we're going to release our first album in March or April.
Because you just released a single in
Yep,
December.
yep. And so we're going to release the full album. Just got the masters um, yesterday, actually. So they're all done. Talking to Jimbo Valentine, he's finishing up the cover
Where'd you
art.
record it at?
So in Indiana, in Muncie, Indiana, actually, with a guy named Tony Ray. Tony used to be part of a band called Blue Mafia, and he also toured with Dan Tyminski. And
Okay.
he's an engineer from Pinecastle Records. So we initially went down to Pinecastle Records. We got we won this.
Like a package.
Yeah, and we could go down there and record like 4 songs. Long story short, things didn't work out very well. I was sick as a dog. They wanted you to knock through 4 songs, and we weren't prepared. Long story short, but Tony liked me so well that he said, you know what? He's like, come to my house. We'll record the whole thing. And so I went back and forth to Muncie and recorded all my parts, and then Tony put he put banjo and more guitar and bass, and sent off the fiddle to Tim Crouch, he played on Alan Jackson records and all sorts of stuff, and did the fiddle parts. All those fiddle parts were Tim Crouch, and so
I mean, Walking Sun is like, it sounds like first class bluegrass backing band.
That was, I actually told, I kind of pushed. Tony was trying to be a little bit at first. Some of the stuff was like, let's touch on bluegrass, but let's also do some add a little bit more in there. And the last mixed stuff has all been kind of just straight bluegrass, and I love it because
I love the banjo.
Yeah. Oh, I know that's Tony. Yeah. That
kind
little
of slow
island thing almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like at first I didn't think banjo. I thought something else.
I know. Right. That's all Tony. Tony's just phenomenal. He's a phenomenal musician. He's playing with the Dillards now. He's going to be, if you all get a chance, the big festival. That's the big bluegrass festival.
Bean Blossom.
No, the one that's in Kentucky with bluegrass.
In Owensboro, and Romp.
I think it's that one. Yeah, the Dillards are going to be playing, but Tony will be playing. Will be playing with the Dillards on that. So
Owensboro is close to me. So
okay, I'm going to try to come out for that. I told him I'd try to come out and sing for that, but he don't get out much. He mainly just does his mixing, and he's like I tell him he's like a wizard because yes. I mean, it's magical. The stuff comes out like, oh my God, this is crazy. But we'll be finishing that up. That'll come out March or April whenever Jimbo Valentine he finishes up the art on it, and that'll
Jimbo's
come out.
awesome.
Oh, he is the man, and I love him to death.
I got to hug his neck at the benefit at Manchester.
Oh, I wish I could have went to that. I wanted to go so bad. I had a show at the train station in Corbin, so I didn't make it out. And by the time it got done, it was too late. But that looked like it was really a
I
special
almost
time.
didn't go, and somebody called me because it's 2 hours to get to Lexington,
Sure.
and I was going to watch on the live stream, and somebody called me and said, "I'm leaving in 20 minutes. I have an extra ticket. I'm driving. We'll come home tonight. Just if you're ready to go, let's go." I was like, "All right." I'd already started working on my old truck. I was
Sure.
settled in for the night, but it was a good time. But Jimbo, like, he does a lot of posters for me for my ramble,
Yeah.
and he's just like, you know, this is no knock to the other artists that I've
Yeah.
used or
Same. Yeah.
but they're sometimes it's $400 and $500 for a design, and Jimbo's just like, yeah, man, I'll knock that out, and it's always first rate, and
Yep.
it's very he doesn't gouge you. He's just like, hey,
No.
this is my time, and he definitely has a style for sure.
It's always solid. I never have to go back and be like, "Hey, can you do this?" Or and it's not any strike to anybody else, but he hands it to you. I'm like, "This is awesome. Thank you."
Yeah, he crushes it.
He does every time.
So how many songs on this album?
Uh, it was going to be. We were going to put a remastered version of the original Honey, but we decided to just because it was recorded a different place and had a little bit different sound that we. So it was going to be a 10, and now I think it's 9 songs now. So it's everything that's out, and then then there's going to be a cover of "Oh Death" that's going to be coming out, and then a new version of Honey. It's basically the same sort of principle, but but
you've lived with that song for a while, and
yeah,
you play it probably different now.
we do. So it's a little more revamped version of that, and so then that'll all come out and all in April. So I'm also.
So are you gonna like back that up with like a bunch of touring, or like how's the record release gonna roll out?
So I'm in talks right now. I can't say too much, but there's a deal that I'm working with a group that they're going to help with some PR for it. So they're going to start help. We're going to link hands and kind of help push that a little bit more on the social media and do some podcasts and do some all that sort of stuff. And then as far as then we're and from that we may end up going a little bit farther west with some of our touring. Right now, we're definitely going to be around. I got another show in Nashville coming up, and I'm rescheduling another show at Duke's Indies. We missed the Duke's Indies show because of the snow, so we're going to reschedule that. Got Picking in the Backwoods. We're going to be playing at that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. There's going to be a lot of traveling around. So our band's in town is getting updated all the time. I got a show coming in Illinois I'm working on with Jed Brown. I got some shows.
Now, did you usually do how do you usually tour? Like, how many pieces?
So right now, the way we started doing it was I was basically hiring in this guitar and whatever, and it was kind of back up and down, and it was fine, but we didn't have a solid group that we were playing with all the time, and so now it's my son on drums. He's 16,
That's
and
cool.
he's just doing a killer job, and so he's going to be playing drums for us. And McLean James is picked up a guitar, and he's playing guitar for us now. And then my buddy Brian Myers is playing bass. And so if they can do full band, we're doing full band. There's a couple shows that are going to be solos, but for the most part, show at Kilpatrick's in Tennessee is going to be solo. But most of our shows are going to be full band. We're going to travel out, and these guys.
Here's the thing: if you can sell it as a solo, and they fall in love with you, the songs and your voice, then when they come back and see you with the full band, then it's an extra treat.
That's what we're trying to do with it, because I can put on a great show with myself and my voice, but whenever you have the whole package, it's like there's a whole level more of power with it.
Well, it's hard. Jericho Woods, we came straight out of the gate, full band, full everything.
Sure.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But you're out there trying to grow a following and feed 5 people. It was
That's
a lot.
That's
and
exactly it.
I think Tyler and Sturgill and those guys were great about. They went out and they did that whole circle 4, 5, 6 times as a solo artist. built that crowd, and then if I had to do all over again, I'd probably
Go back and
make
do
the same
that.
mistakes, but yeah, go out and build it, and then they come back, expecting the same thing, and they get this bigger things.
Right. That's it. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of the direction we're going. At the same time, my guys, they're kind of like, they just like to play. So
That's special too.
yeah. So they're like, we know we ain't going to make a lot. We go out here. And I always try to still give them, even if we get to a show and it's a door gig and they don't make a lot, I'll still try to throw them a little bit. And with
Hey,
having,
as long as they know the expectation, like
that's it.
now
That's it.
I did towards the end of Jericho Woods, like, we were having to get some hired guns, and I hate to even use that word because they were like brothers and sisters.
Sure.
But it was like you get to a certain level, it's like, I need you on these dates. So it's like we were paying them guaranteed money, and sometimes you were making $500 a show, and you had $1,500 worth of overhead.
That's exactly it. You're paying it. It starts coming out of your pocket. You ain't paying a dime, and it makes it hard. And that's it. But it took me a while to get to that point because we went from a band that was kind of together, but everybody wanted to get paid. I think a lot of times whenever you start with musicians that haven't did it a lot, they don't realize, they think they're going to come out the door and they're going to be making big money. And I'm just like, you don't understand. Like
you're not going to make any money.
No, you're going to make less than any. You're going to have to put money into this.
I mean, it's not necessarily pay to play, but like that meme where it says you have $5,000 worth of gear and a $500 car going to a $50 gig. Like,
yes,
that happens a lot.
It is. And so I finally had to find some people that were like, okay, yeah, I'm in it for the music. Like, if we can make something, that would be amazing, but it's not the end of the world if we don't. And that's kind of, and because I mean, really, mine is always like, I've never expected, it'd be great if we could finally make some money and that's all we were doing, but I'm not in it for that. I wouldn't be 42 going back and doing music again if I was trying to make.
I like Rick Rubin talks about it, in his book and in some of the podcasts I've seen him in, where, success is measured by you. And if that means you got to have a regular job that supports, the thing that you love to do, then that it can be whatever you want it to be. Like, you don't have to, compare it to what other people are doing. And
that's it.
That's a hard thing to do because we're on social media all the time, and you're comparing yourself to other people, and you're like, oh, I'd love to be on that show, or I'd love to be. But you probably couldn't be a good husband and a good dad and a mental health worker if you did all those things.
I mean, God has showed me 100% if I would have continued on in the route I was going when we were in the Twin Cities, and I just had one kid, and we were trying to put this band together, and things were going pretty well. I found out real quick, I think I would have blew my life up if I would have took off. I really think that I was not ready for it. I think I would have blew my life up. I mean, when I moved away from home in 2020, I think it was 2020. No, sorry. It was 2003, was right before the pill epidemic hit. And so I literally moved away and missed it. And most of my friends aren't here anymore. Most of my family's not here anymore. And they all, I mean, it just swept, they came through and just took everybody. And I think if I would have started out in music then, I probably wouldn't be here. So Keith's life is a lot of, it's Sandy Hook in a nutshell. From addiction to what it does. Like,
it doesn't matter what you had going on, like you could still destroy it easily.
That's it. So for me, it's like, I would rather be doing it now at 42 with my head on my shoulders and a lot to fight for, and a lot to stay here for, and a lot to not fall off the wagon and blow everything up for, because I'm actually doing it for a lot different reason than if I was a young kid and didn't have much more to just have a good time. But
the first band I was in, it was about 2003.
Yeah.
We were doing fairly well, and we had a great manager, and we were touring with Little Big Town some at the time.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, like it was like, we were kind of cracking off, and but I just had my second kiddo, and the guys that I was in the band with, who I love, they're like my best buddies. Yeah. But it was like frat party every weekend when we got together, and I just knew 270 days a year away from my family with those guys. I didn't trust myself in that place, and
Yeah, you may not
had to
come
say
back. It
no
may not come
thanks.
back to anything because you're. Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's where I was, and I really do feel like if I'd have kept on, that's what would have happened. We were the band was all like I said, it was before the whole Tyler thing. So this was completely new, and this we were in the Twin Cities, and we're doing like this Appalachian thing in the Twin Cities, and they really dug it because it was
It was
anything like
raw and
yeah, but I know what would have happened to me, and I'm thankful, even though I kind of would have been cool to be doing music at a
hey,
higher
look,
level now.
even Tyler
Right.
kind of had to straighten up.
That's it. He did, and because that sound comes from a place of like that's the sound of poverty, that's the sound of addiction, that's the sound of all that hollering is all that pain from those hills,
Yeah.
and the things that we went through from that, and um, there's a lot that it can do to you, and I'm glad to hear it. He's been doing a lot. I heard he's been doing a lot better too, and that's awesome. But I don't know if I'd have been that same. I don't know if I
Yeah.
would have did the same thing.
Yeah. Well,
So,
luckily for me, my it wouldn't have been pills. It'd have been that Kessler that you was talking about earlier, probably.
yeah, yeah, same. Alcohol was more my thing too. I never got in. Like I said, I missed the pills, but I don't know if I had been here what that would have did. Because I remember like I heard stories after I moved away, like in high school, we're smoking weed and drinking in Kessler and whatever. But I heard stories of like the kids after us were like chopping pills up on the desks. Like I didn't. I have no grid for that. I have no
Yeah,
grid for.
that stuff scared me to death.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah,
even take a Tylenol if I'd been drinking too much.
right. Me too. But I also saw people that I never would have thought in a million years would have, and just fell head over heels into it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't have
Well,
to know.
it's it just shapes you, and I
Yeah.
think like that's what makes your music kind of special. That it is its own thing. You are coming from a unique perspective with a unique voice, but kind of giving us it's still the traditional sound of the
Right.
region, in a lot of ways. I don't know, man. I just think I love your voice.
Thank you, man.
You're like the Chris Cornell of Sandy Hook, and
I love that. That's
well,
that's gonna go on a T-shirt sometime or other.
there you go. But yeah, I mean it has to be cathartic, and it is for you probably something that you can. I remember being a teacher and just all the things that kids were going through, and you couldn't just drop that off at your desk before you left. Like you were taking
No.
it with you. So I'm sure that it's cathartic for you to go out and kind of let all this out, with kind of some of the stuff that you deal with on your cases and all that too.
Dude, I don't know if I didn't have music, I don't know what people do that don't have have music, I
Yeah, you
don't.
just you blow your top. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how people do it. A lot of my life I had a lot of ideation, a lot of just not didn't even know if I wanted to be around anymore, but music going back into music has honestly given me a whole new lease on life. Like I'm just like now I want to live. Now I want to.
well, and you've been getting healthy. Like
Yeah, and that
I've kind
too.
of watched your journey. Like you're losing weight.
81 pounds right today.
That's a
So
person.
that is, man. I
Well,
still
a
got
small person, but it's a person.
I still got a ways to go, but things have changed, man. Like I said, this is the best time in my life to even be pursuing music because I'm fighting for my own life and fighting to stay here and fighting to be around for my kids and all those things. So it's given me a better perspective of what I'm doing because my life's getting better, And I was an Eeyore for so long, and I'm not an Eeyore anymore, and that's
I was gonna
been.
say I don't get that impression from you. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, my music is pretty sad. My mom's like, "Why is your music so sad?" I'm like,
Well, I
that's
sing
like
sad songs too.
that's how I get. That's how I can get happy.
Yeah, you got it. That's how you exercise those demons.
That's it. That's it. And you leave the demons on the page, and you move on. And that's exactly it.
Well, man, I'm excited for you all, and
Thank you,
I'm
brother.
excited for this new record to come out. If people are wanting to find stuff that you all have going on, like where do they go?
Um, our website was shut down, but we're in the process of getting it back up. But we should be up within the next month or so. It's Moonlight Mile, ky.com is our website. But we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, all the places, Spotify, iTunes, all the things we're out there. So I have a link tree. I don't know what my link tree what the address is to my link tree. But if you can find my link tree, I know it's on my Instagram.
I was gonna say, go to the bio and it'll be in there.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What any surprise thing that you got coming up that you could share with anybody, or I know you talked about some of the festival stuff going on. Any big things in the work?
We're working. I just got off the phone yesterday with a group that's getting some attention, and I think we're going to link hands with them. So that's coming pretty soon with this album. So you'll figure it out whenever they start posting this around April, March. And also, if everything works out as I plan, because it took so long to get the first album out, the second album is going to possibly be out, if everything works out, like fall or winter. So awesome. We're headed in May out east. I met a guy out in Connecticut, and we're going to be traveling out east to do the and all the demos are already done. I already sent the demos to him. We're going to go out there, and me and Asher knock that out, and that'll, hopefully, if everything works out, it'll be out right around Christmas time. So
you just start hammering people.
That's that's the plan. Yeah.
Oh, you think you're done with us? No, here's the next record.
We'll just keep blasting it till
It's definitely the nature of the business now.
It is, man.
Like, just keep giving people what they want.
I think this time around too, we're going to release like a single, and then we're going to plop the album out instead of. The first time it was single, and I think this time we're going to go single, album. And
here it comes.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's it. Yeah, that's the plan.
Well, Jonathan, man, I've enjoyed talking to you. I know we can probably talk for 4 hours.
Good.
but man, I'm excited about what y'all have going on. Again, I love your voice. I love the subject matter. And guys, y'all need to get out there on the socials and follow Moonlight Mile. Follow Jonathan. Watch this journey. I'm proud to be a fellow Kentuckian guy who's out there doing it the way he's doing it. So,
amen, man.
Man, the best of luck to you.
Thank you,
guys. Thank you for watching Every Damn Friday. You can go find us on the YouTube and subscribe, and you won't miss a thing. And I'll keep bringing you good folks just like this guy right here.
See you guys.